Well, hello again, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome to the Whiskey Nook and Sample Sunday. At least until the samples run out, I'm really going to try to find the time to just come down and talk a little bit about some samples. Now, these also came from Dana, and I've got two that we're going to talk about. I imagine they're different because one's coming up from the US, it's a bourbon, and the other is a Canadian rye. So I put them here because they're samples. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Angel's Envy. So I'm sure you know that's a bourbon that's been finished in port. Second one is Glynnevan. I don't know that distillery. They're on the East Coast, I know that, and this is their Cabot Triple Barreled Rye. So we'll talk about that finished bourbon and a triple barreled Canadian rye when we come back.
3, 4.
Thanks for staying with me. I'm not sure the sample hold has the same effect as the bottle hold. I don't know if you can read it or not, but let's talk whiskey. So the first sample that I'm going to get into, and thanks again, Dana. Really, gentlemen, thank you for meeting me and sharing a little bit of whiskey. I've poured out the samples. This is all I have. Can't be a rating, but we'll taste and talk. So Angel's Envy, released at 43.3%. I believe the little bit I know about Angel's Envy, what's the distillery that actually makes it? Louisville, Kentucky Distillery Company. And it's the person who used to be the head distiller or master distiller at Brown-Forman. Could be Lincoln Henderson. I'll confirm that down below. Point is, a person that I've read, really great cred in the industry, wanted to do something different with straight bourbon, and so takes, a 4 to 6 year old straight bourbon. Mash bill I'll have to look up. I think it's higher rye, 18%, and then finished it in export barrels for a short amount of time, somewhere around maybe 6 months. So that's Angel's Envy. First part of the nose, quite sweet, right into like a raisin. But then cut into a little more, bourbon caramel. Fairly sweet nose. Yeah, staying pretty close to that light fruit sweetness. I know raisins are normally a darker sweet, so maybe a lighter sweet like a fruit cup. Boy, yeah, that's a sweet nose. It's nice, but gentle, inviting, but very, very light, very heathery. Well, not heather, that'd be floral. Not floral, but like light honey, vanilla, light fruit cup. Yeah, I imagine with time, I poured these out a little while ago so they could rest. Some of the more, bourbon oak or spice might come out. Yeah, even agitating it there picked up quite a bit on the spicing. Still pretty light spicing, a little light baking spices. It's not really dark. Yeah, interesting. See how it tastes. Have some and drink along. Have some. I can't pour it for you. I'm just saying I think it's really nice if you have something to see if you taste what I taste, even if it's not the same stuff. That stays fairly sweet in the mouth. Not a very expressive or wide fruit. Really light, ripe banana. It's not a heavy banana, but just a little bit of whatever that rich but sweet, mellow fruit. More fruit cup. really not getting, like I read that it's 18% rye. Not getting that in the palate or the nose. Okay, second sip in. That's all I've had here. It's picking up a little more steam, which I'm looking for in a bourbon. It's giving me a little more backbone, a little more tannin, a little more hug. There's maybe that rye coming out, light pepper spicing coming, but I'm feeling it a little down low, which isn't the percent. It's a light percent, 43.3. So good. It's giving me now a little more oak. Yeah. Okay. So that took me a little while to get. I think this dram would probably have a wide appeal because it is so light and the fruiting isn't heavy. This isn't crushed, but it might have a wide appeal for general whiskey drinkers, but I think it might be a challenge for kind of dyed-in-the-wool bourbon drinkers, because I didn't get, a burst of cinnamons or a hit of oak or a dark cherry. Not that you have to get that. There's lots of bourbons that don't have that, but it took a while for me to really get at the bourbon. Instead, I was like light, sweeter fruit whiskey. It's not fruit whiskey, but I mean a whiskey almost a little bit Canadian-like, to be honest. Yeah. Okay, structure picked up. Structure definitely picked up. That's the third sip going in. Definitely getting a little more cinnamon, a little more spicing, and I like that. I want that at some point in my bourbon experience. So not in comparison, but another sample from Dana. I'm going to try this Glynnevan. It's Cabot Triple Barreled Rye. Finished in Fortress rum barrels. Now it's 45%. This I know would not be colored because it's coming as a straight bourbon, I believe. And this Canadian, I really don't know if it's been colored or not. I read a little bit about these guys, and they're bringing over sourced whiskey from somewhere, probably in Ontario. That's its first barrel. And then they talk about, like very romantically, about how they put it back in oak. They don't say what oak, they don't say new oak, they don't say reused oak, just put it back in oak and keep it on the sea to get that Cape Breton East Coast sea air. And then the last finish is apparently right fresh emptied rum barrels. So that's sort of the 3 wood that they get at. It's kind of interesting because it kind of reminds me of triple oak or triple, what's it? Why can't I get it out of my head? But the one that's going to the west that also did something very similar like that. Let's see how this rye smells and tastes. Very different. Like this, I think you'd get right away is rye. But on the nose, it is a maple syrup rye. So it's got a spice hit, like I think I'm going somewhere spicy. But it is cooked, wrapped in deep maple syrup. So also sweet. Let's see how it tastes. Cheers. That's good spicing. That is absolutely like made my eyes twinge a little bit. Cracked black pepper, cinnamon, clove. Fairly sweet though. That strong spice, which I want. But there is a maple syrup sugared sweetness in here. Yeah. Now, I would like to taste that against another Canadian rye of some kind. It's lacking a little bit of fruit structure for me. And it's a little bit, there's a tiny bit of metallic note to it that I'm struggling a little bit with. Love the spicing. Love the drying note. It's just got some astringent metallic notes that is a bit surprising. And it's very sweet. Not to be a fair comparison at all. And this now is giving me a little more fruit structure. It's gentler on the nose. Far easier sipping. I think these should never be compared. They're not in the same category, nor were they ever designed to be going up to the same people. Thank you, Dana, for the samples. In this sitting, I kind of like the Angel's Envy a little more. I really like the rye spicing here, but there are some other flavors that I need to get to know a little more, and there's quite a bit of rum finished sugar, which even on like Pike Creek, for example, I now struggle with. It's a little too sweet for me. Well, that was great though. Thanks for joining me as I bumbled through a couple of samples. Hope you have some whiskey and that you could sip along if you have them. That's fantastic. And even if not, I like to imagine we're sharing a dram. Even if you're sipping something else, at least you're sipping whiskey. You guys have a great Sunday and a great week. Take care.